unemployment.
How many times have I sit and pee? How many times have I sit and pee? I cannot
Okay.
How many times have I sit and pee? 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 I didn't do it intentionally. How many times I sit and pee? How many times I sit and
Are you looking at? What the fuck are you looking at? What the fuck are you looking at?
How many times?
A place we've never been in before. Come on.
you? How many times I would sit in peace? How many times I would sit in peace? I would sit in peace.
I'd love for you to tell me how all of the technology is
How many times I would sit in peace?
I'd love for you to tell me how all of the technologists here in the audience. I'd love for you to tell me how all of the technologists here in the audience.
I didn't do it intentionally.
Unemployment.
How many times I would sit in peace? I cannot even count to you. How many times I didn't do it intentionally. Cannot even count to you how many times I would sit in peace. I cannot even count.
I can't afford it. You can pretty much find You can pretty much find I can't afford it.
I made an egg.
A place we've never been in before.
Sit in peace.
Place we've never been in
I'd love for you to tell me how all of the technologists here.
I cannot even count to you how many times I would sit in peace. I cannot even count to you. I didn't do it intentionally. I didn't mean to leave it there. Count to you. How many times?
You can pretty much find any unemployment.
I didn't mean to leave him there. I didn't mean to leave him there. I didn't do it intentionally.
I'd love for you to tell me and tell all of the technologists here in the audience. I'd love for you to tell me and tell all of the technologists here in the audience.
A place we've never been in before.
Unemployment. Unemployment.
A place we've never been in before.
I didn't see police in there. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
A place we've never been in before.
Cannot even count to you how many times I would sit and pee.
You can pretty much find any, like,
I didn't see police in there. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I didn't do it intentionally.
unemployment, 24 to 46.
Come on. Come on.
I can't afford it.
Sit and pee.
Unemployment. You can pretty much find any, like,
I didn't do it intentionally.
substances or objects. You can pretty much find any.
I didn't see police in there. I didn't do it intentionally.
You can pretty much find any, unemployment.
Sit and pee.
A place we've never been in before.
What the fuck are you looking at?
I didn't see police in there. I didn't do it intentionally. Sit and pee. Sit and pee.
Come on. Come
I
on.
didn't see police in there. I didn't do it intentionally. I didn't do it intentionally.
Unemployment.
cannot even count to you. I didn't sit in peace.
I'd love for you to tell me and tell all of the technologists here in the audience.
Unemployment.
How many times I would sit in pee?
Okay.
A place we've never been in before. A place we've never been in before.
I didn't mean to leave him there. That's what I'm
I
trying to tell
cannot
you.
even count to you how many times I would sit in pee.
I didn't do it intentionally.
Sit in pee.
I didn't do it intentionally. I didn't mean to leave him there. I didn't do it intentionally.
How many times I would sit
I
in
didn't
pee?
mean to leave him there.
How many
That's what I'm
times I
trying to
would
tell
sit
you.
in pee?
I didn't do it intentionally.
A place we've never been in
Unemployment. Unemployment. Unemployment.
I'd love for you to tell me and tell all of
Literally took me hours, but then it happened. Literally took me hours, but then it
Unemployment. I can't afford it. Unemployment.
literally took me hours, but then it happened.
ago. But what you were saying also about the Earth's energy lines being so activated, I mean, this is what Rory Duff talks about a lot at the moment, that all the sacred sites are on fire. You know, they're waking up, the dragon lines are waking up, getting wider and stronger. He talked about that in a recent interview. So it's so exciting. And if you look at Kundalini energy, I think of that very much as Uranus. And Uranus is currently what's called on the world axis, in a position in the zodiac, which throws its energy onto the world view, the public stage, if you like. And in one sense, that's been very tragic because it's the planet of earthquakes, and we know what's happened in Turkey and Syria. But in a much deeper, more beautiful sense, it is awakening the Kundalini of us and the Earth. So what you were saying from the channeling is absolutely aligning with the astrology, which is just fabulous. So it feels very propitious. It feels very fortunate in the way you've explained it, Magenta. That comet energy, bring in new energy for us.
100%. That's what that comet is showing. That, you know, that's why they said phoenix. This is the green phoenix. If you are to give the comet, because a comet is a structure but has consciousness. How would we see the representation? You've got the dragon lines within the earth. This is the true dragon awakening within us. We are the dragon riders for the dragon. The phoenix is the comet. This is how the 9 speak all the time, bringing forward. And these are ancient knowings within us. And when we awaken, we know the phoenix, we know the dragon, we know the mermaid. You know, the amount of people who are awakened that are, when they hear these terms, dragon, so many people are like, that's me. That is me. I am called by the dragon. I am the dragon. I'm at one with the dragon. I'm a dragon rider. I'm a dragon tamer. And the same with the mermaid. That's me. I swim under the water with the flowers. I mean, that film Avatar, The Way of Water, the sequel, the amount of people, awakened individuals, and even those who haven't fully awakened, that are being triggered by the imagery within. This is all memory of who we are on multiple levels, as in a real civilization that we lived in previous incarnations. Memory that we're accessing within the earth, because the earth has the memory of the civilization, but also layered within metaphor as well, because we are looking at this metaphor going right up to source. So you can look at a physical 3D interpretation, a 4D interpretation, and a 5D interpretation and beyond with every metaphor. So I feel that there's a lot of similarities with these metaphors that the 9 bring forward and the astrology that you work with as well. Because if you look at astrology, each one has a sign, each one has a symbol, and then you've got all the fractal metaphors coming from the symbol as well as the actual movements of the planet. So it's a multi-dimensional science, a multi-dimensional structure, and the information from the 9 is very much the same thing, but just using the focus of language and image rather than planetary alignments. But it's very similar.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear, because I'm getting so many kind of resonances as you speak, Magenta, and the phoenix very much. I think of the phoenix rising from the ashes, and that's very actually linked to Pluto. You know, the death of the old and new life forming. And really, that's absolutely, you know, layers and layers and layers. And again, it's like the fractality of the universe. We are getting so many messages that this is the death of the old
Yes.
world, the old system, and the beginning of the new at a much higher level, new life at a much higher level.
Yes.
So I'd love to talk about your channeling, because I haven't heard it yet. We didn't have time to talk about it at the event where we bumped into each other, about the information you've got about water, because we are moving into a big phase of water astrologically.
Yes. And
I'd love to hear it.
You would think to discuss water, there wouldn't be much to say, because like water's water, but goodness me, it is again so fractal. I will just say before we leave the comet conversation, the phoenix rising from the ashes as a harbinger of that new birth, the fact that the comet has flown by, the comet has shown itself, means the phoenix is here. The phoenix has risen. So it's not it's not just that it's going to rise, it's risen already. So it's
Wow.
there, and that is the rising of New Earth. New Earth is here now. Even though some people I know can't see that and say, well, where is it, Magenta? I've had no evidence of New Earth. It's about relaxing and knowing and trusting, and you will find it. Just you and me connecting today is a New Earth connection. That's
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, 100%. That's so interesting because it's kind of the setup, I feel, for the March equinox, which we'll come on to.
It absolutely is, yes. This whole January, late January, February, and then into the spring equinox has had like these little mini cycles running up to the spring equinox. And obviously the autumn equinox in the other hemisphere. The March equinox being this birth point, but late January through February in this sine wave, there's been a lot of intense energetic cycles coming up to that point, which is why we are seeing the signs of the old order collapsing, but it can look like they're getting stronger. It can look like they're holding more power because they are showing themselves. They're saying, this is what we have. This is all the power that we have. Look how powerful we are. They're doing that because they're losing it. If they truly had the power, they wouldn't need to show it to us. So anyway, that's going off track somewhat. So
yeah, that's really because I feel, Magenta, the better that we prepare for this March equinox, the better it will work for us as individuals. That's my feeling. It's a really important time of preparation, of clearing away the old and stepping fully into this new energy.
Yeah. So I'm laughing here and getting distracted. I asked my husband to bring up a tea for me, a peppermint and licorice tea, and he's brought it up in this cup. Look. And I'm stood there like this with my hand, and I'm thinking, I'm going to look so silly covering the cup. So anyway, I should say to him, why did you bring that cup up? I'm so sorry. I don't know, maybe there's some colour energy with the box.
It's interesting what you were saying about the old system appearing to be more visible, because in the last video I did, I said it's like you're at the theatre and all the scenery is starting to come away in the corners. It's tatty, it's shabby, it's old, it's starting to unravel. So the actors are talking louder and louder so the audience won't notice how unraveling all of the scenery is becoming. And I think that's quite a good way to look at it, you know, getting louder.
Metaphor, yes. What a great metaphor. And if you think of the Wizard of Oz and the wizard behind the curtain, it's the same thing. They're showing
exactly
themselves because, but it's difficult for those who are not necessarily thinking in what I would class fifth dimensional terms, which is multidimensionality, and looking at the fractality of these metaphors. For individuals who are still awake and aware but are thinking third dimensionally, that's difficult because they're seeing that their brain is processing everything in a linear sense. So they can then look and think they're getting more powerful, they're getting stronger, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're planning on this, they're planning on that. How can we possibly move forward with this? And the only way to really truly see it, so that you find the joy in the knowing that from the higher perspective, all this is done already. One must do everything you can to look multidimensionally, look in this fractal way, think in this spiral thought rather than linear thought. That's the main teaching at this point for people, because once you think that way, you will see so much. And what you said, if you're looking at the theatre as a metaphor, you're going to be seeing what's behind the scenes. You're not just seeing the play. That's another way of looking at it. But regarding water, there was a lot that came through. First of all, there was something very, very small, just touched upon in my latest book, which was just released last month, that you mentioned in the intro, the Diamond Codex and the Quartz Key. Very, very minor touching on water. And what they actually said, in the context of a larger chapter, was, your food, farming and agriculture shall biodynamically and organically present, bringing new ocean nourishment into the fields and soils of New Earth. So this is just one way of looking at water. There's lots that have come through. So that was just part of the overall transmission, and I didn't go any deeper into that. But obviously, knowing I was going to talk to you, I remembered that there was something they mentioned about ocean nourishment. So I asked them to clarify, can you explain what you mean by new ocean nourishment? And they replied, we mean by this the vast vitamin and mineral and salt-rich, unpolluted and regenerated ocean waters that shall feed the fields and soils of new earth. So I replied, regenerated, do you mean there will be people who discover a way to clean seawater and use it to feed the soil for farming? And they said, indeed, and use it for yet more. Many discoveries shall be made. So it seems to me that there's something within ocean water. And if you look at the pollution that's occurred over many, many years, what the Nine have shown me is that there is a certain, beyond the salts, the sea life, the water itself, there is a charge. There is an electrical kind of charge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In the water, and it can be used for multiple things. Now, I have talked to them a little bit more about this when I looked at some of the things they were saying in the recent transmission about the return of the mermaid. It seems to me that ultimately, with all these different information about water, it seems to me that they are leaning towards a free energy movement. And I know you and I met together at the local event, and the reason why I went to that event was because I'd had the information come through about water. And when I saw that this person was doing a talk on water and free energy, I thought I've got to go to this, because this is what I'm being shown, and I don't get told everything. I have to go out and live the adventure and discover things for myself. The Nine don't tell me everything. It's often in the form of these clues. And then that's when I met you. So I've gone through some of the information that they've talked about. So that's the new ocean nourishment. So one of the things they did say is a new inception point created from Aurora network seed points, I'll explain that, with oceanic understanding as you enter the time period that heralds the return of the mermaid. So a new inception point is not just a birth point, but a conception point, as in the very first seed. And then you have the moment of that being incubated before it's birthed. So that's what we're entering, a completely new inception point. Created from Aurora Network seed points. Well, the Aurora Network is the name that they give to all awakened individuals, especially if they're in the fifth dimensional way of thinking. So star seeds, basically. And that again is difficult for people because they'll say, well, what's a star seed and am I one? If you are awake and aware of the fact that there is something in this world that is not what's being presented, and that is multidimensional and is spiritual as well as physical, then you are part of the Aurora Network. That's you. And anyone who wakes up joins it. And the reason why they use Aurora is it is connected to the Aurora Borealis. That's the presentation of light, plasma, photonic light, but also the group soul that is created by all the awakened and aware individuals. They refer to in the feminine as the divine Princess Aurora. So they use these presentations simply because the group soul is an individual intelligent structure in and of itself, as in an ascended master, if you will, and there are multiple of them. And the more people that wake up, the more of these group souls and presentations, goddess and god presentations are created. So Aurora Network seed points would be the thoughts of the Aurora Network, but not random thoughts. But when lots of awakened people have the same thought that's focused, this creates reality. Reality. So that's what they mean. That's what they mean, that the inception point we're moving into, a new inception point, which is this equinox point, is created from these focused thoughts of awakened individuals with oceanic understanding, as you enter the time period that heralds the return of the mermaid, as in metaphor. They went on to say, from all things Mu, of the waters, children of Neptune and the travellers of the great grand cosmic Merkaba, through aurora portals, called to your planet as open doorways for the birth of multiple new sub-logos group soul archetypes, Alyssa, Soraya, and Seraphim, angelic myrrh that traverse the waters of space and hold space within your waters. I know that that's really full-on metaphor and it really needs breaking down, but Alyssa sounds very similar to a structure that you mentioned. So
Galaxia, which I'll talk about in a moment.
Because you see, these sub-logos could be planetary structures or stars, because everything is within the galaxy. As I said, I have to work these things out myself, but I did ask them, can you talk more about oceanic understanding? Because we're talking about water. I wasn't going to break down everything here. What's oceanic understanding within the seed points of these aware individuals? They're suggesting here that all starseeds have oceanic understanding in them. So they said, this is, as we have said, more awareness of ocean waters and its practical and spiritual significance. Yet beyond the ocean waters upon your land, we speak of the ocean waters within the realm you call space. So they're talking about spiritual and practical significance. So water in space and within the land. So we're looking at metaphor here. We're looking at some kind of fluid energy, which could be plasma. They tell me that plasma takes on multiple different forms.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So there's a solid form of plasma and a watery form of plasma, and it is the structure we are made of. So that when we first came into incarnation, we would have come through this sort of non-physical structure and become more and more physical through plasma and water. And we would have birthed ourselves within the waters before we came out onto the land, as in our original inception as humans or whichever planet we are on. So,
I mean, this is so fascinating, Magenta. It's so much as, bringing into my mind right now, because firstly, and I might have mentioned this to you at the event, there's something called primary water, which people can just do an internet search on, and apparently this is incredibly pure, mineral rich. There's 5 times as much primary water under what's called the mantle of the earth. I'm not quite sure what the mantle of the earth is, than in all of the oceans in the world. So it's incredibly pure, and I believe it comes up in kind of geysers and springs and that kind of thing. But this is incredible for healing and nourishment, etc. The other thing that's kind of pinging into my mind is, as you're speaking, there's a dwarf planet recently discovered, and by recently, they were the ones that have been discovered were about 20 years ago, turn of the century, called Salacia, and she is mermaid energy. She's the wife of Neptune, but she is goddess of salt water, the seas.
This is so important. It's something about the salts.
Because it can take an electrical... Yes, it can take an electrical charge. And there's one whole theory of evolution that we began in earliest life forms on the edge of the tide, because as the salt water comes in up and down the beach, there's some kind of an electrical charge that can happen with the movement of the tides, because it's salt water, it can take a charge that started very early forms of life from which we then developed. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't, but there's something very important about the salt seas.
That's Lemuria, and that's the world of the mermaid. Lemuria going through multiple different stages, because the early Lemuria was non-physical and etheric, and would have come down in this more like air, and it's hard to explain, air, and then more like water, and then into this more solid plasma. So that's absolutely how we came into physical birthing. because we came down frequencies.
Yeah.
And the body, the physical body that you have matches the frequency of the environment you live in, but it has to be birthed, and salt holds the charge needed to birth a structure from antimatter into matter, because salt, and it must be pure salt, and I say that because much of the waters have been deliberately, that charge has been taken deliberately through chemicals and through, well, multiple means, without going into all of them, and I don't know all of them, but that charge has been taken. But I didn't know about primary water, and that makes a lot of sense, because they're repeatedly talking about unpolluted pure waters. I went on to ask them about the space water. Do you mean that there is water in space? And I'm talking physically, is there actual water in space? And is this water accessible to humanity? How is it accessible if it's in space? And they replied, indeed, we do mean there is water in your space. It will be accessible to some of humanity, not all of humanity. This occurs within the bifurcation. So there will be those in the inverted system, and those within New Earth, who access these waters, these space waters we speak of. So what I'm thinking they're saying is those that have some kind of technology in some way are able to access this space water on both sides of the bifurcation, which is why it can be used for a negative thing and a positive thing.
Absolutely. And just for it, this is what's so interesting at the moment astrologically, because Salacia has a 272-year orbit. It's very, very slow. Right now, it is conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter expands everything it touches, and Jupiter is the planet of wisdom and higher consciousness. And Salacia, in its symbolism, in its archetype, is linked to the shimmering sunlight and moonlight on the salt water. But it also, I believe, is very linked to photonic light, you know, this shimmering, brilliant white light we can see around, and orbs and that kind of thing. So because Jupiter is expanding it at the moment, that really says to me we are getting bigger and bigger waves of this photonic light coming in. It's building and building and building, particularly as we move towards the March equinox as one particular junction, as it were, and jumping off point to another level. So yes, that, you know, that's absolutely fascinating. So in all this incredible light, I mean, when we were together at the winter solstice, I mean, it was 70 degrees, wasn't it, at that mass meditation outside? The light was absolutely incredible. And it's this white plasma photonic light, which is part of our upgrade that's happening. And that's why this feels so incredibly important, right? It's taking us to more wisdom. It's taking us to higher consciousness.
Yes, and comes in waves, just as you said. And then you have waves, another presentation of ocean. So you've got metaphor in there as well. They also showed this to me as like moving in a spiral, going closer and closer to the core. They've been saying this to me for quite a few years prior to 2012. And it seems that we go through these sort of rings within this spiral. And as we go into the core, the rings get smaller and smaller, meaning everything comes grander and more expanded and faster as we move into this, what they call the singularity, which is the destined event for this planet that cannot be stopped. How it presents is open to multiple different permeations, but it has to present. And that's the Great Awakening, and more within it. So yes, absolutely. So I went on to discuss with them, to ask them, is this space water in the form of ice? Because I was thinking, well, if there was water in space, wouldn't it just fall down on us? I don't really know how it works with gravity. I have to ask them so many questions, and I'm not studied in science or physics. And many a time they, in the channeling, they will say, our conduit does not have the information, whether it's biological or whether it's chemistry or whatever, to bring forward that which we wish to express. Therefore, we use her limited understanding. I'm like, oh, thanks, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's how they speak. Anyway, so I asked them, is this water in the form of ice? And this is what they replied. Yes, much ice, and also that which is similar to your rainwater. Yet so indeed is there much that holds a composition similar to your oceanic waters. So there's something similar to rain. I got the image of some kind of mist.
Yeah, and it's structured water, because rainwater and seawater are both structured because they're natural. Tap water has no structure. It's all broken up because of the right angles and heaven knows what's in the water. But structured water is incredibly healing for us, incredibly good for us, because it's a natural form. It's a natural molecule, if you like. And the New Zealand lady, Veda Austin, who I've been talking about recently, she's got some stunning crystallography of crystals that she's taken from salt water or from natural spring water, and how different the crystals are. They either produce fish if it's seawater in the crystals, shapes of fish, or leaves or ferns if it's spring water. If it's tap water, it's just kind of dots and dashes like Morse code. So that, I wonder if that's the similarity, that it's structured, it's natural.
Well, they do speak of this charge, and then what they show me is like a crystalline structure that is alive. It has memory. It has memory of where it's been. It has memory of what it is. So this is the importance of water, but it must be, as you say, this structured water, this pure, unpolluted water, which they say that those in New Earth, there will be those in New Earth that have access to this, that will understand its significance practically and spiritually. This is a physical version of source intelligence, the memory of source. I mean, if we drink it, if we bathe in it, swim in it, if we are at one with it, we're taking in the memory within it. But in our day-to-day life, few of us have access to it, because all the waters we're given has been changed in some way for we know the reason. So it's nice to know that within New Earth this will happen. But there is another thing. Whenever the Nine bring a transmission forward, whilst they're showing me that this is going to happen, it nearly always is the case, because they won't tell me something that hasn't happened at all yet, because any transmission I bring forward can fall into the hands of the others. Therefore, they won't bring anything forward through me unless it's safe to do so, meaning on some level it's already happened. So I would assume there are individuals out there who are already doing this. And it seems to be connected to free energy, which the Nine calls 0 point energy, and they even call it something else, and I'll get to that. I did ask them, why are the seed points for this created from the Aurora Network? How are the Aurora Network, the awakened individuals, creating these inception points for this oceanic understanding? And I think I've kind of covered it, but they said the askings, thoughts, quests, magic, and pineal gland projections are in alignment at critical mass level enough to create the understandings of which we speak. So the pineal gland projections, that light that you were talking about, that we are seeing more and more of, that it activates the pineal gland. That light is at one with the light within. So our own inner light within the pineal gland and the light that's coming in are in the same place. So we perceive it as being outside of us or inside, but outside and inside is the same place in the higher understanding, because there's no such thing as linear time. There's also no such thing as measurement within space. In the higher understanding, there's only one space and one time. So that's the 0 point. So that's the light. And what we do with the pineal gland, it isn't just about seeing things within the multidimensional. It acts as a projector. The light triggers, and we are able to project thoughts. And when those thoughts are cohesive, those thoughts take form within the plasma. And so we're, like we were talking about coming in to seawater and how we were forming in the first place. That's how life is formed, and we are now becoming creators of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I was talking to Professor Robert Temple about this when I interviewed him a few months ago. And if we are in very positive state of love, joy, gratitude, and that therefore our emotion is very coherent, we produce very symmetrical and coherent and beautiful geometry in the plasma. This is like Masaru Emoto's work, if you like, in the plasma, and it bounces back to us as our reality, as being very positive and loving and, to be grateful for. But if we're in anger, hate, fear, whatever, we get very distorted, ugly, asymmetrical geometry forming in the plasma, which bounces back to us as the same, hateful, fearful, blah, 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 blah. So, the universe is just a mirror, takes on a scientific form with that. We can see how we are beginning to get an understanding of how it's happening in the plasma as a living consciousness, because Professor Robert Temple was saying it's not just kind of air and ether, it's a divine consciousness, it's a divine living consciousness with which you are interacting in every moment, 24/7, whether you realize it or not. But we are going to, as we step forwards, become masters of this and realize even the water that we are taking in and urinating out, we're just in the flow of living consciousness all the time.
Absolutely, 100% it. That's absolutely it, yes. So I asked them, what do you mean by the return of the mermaid? Because that's a big thing. What do you mean? And they reply, much is presented within one flame letter or metaphoric code, therefore the meaning is a convergence. What they mean by that is there are multiple meanings for return of the mermaid. Flame letter as in a cosmic inner alphabet within the DNA that we are born with, that's locked away, if you will, if we're unawakened, and when we awaken, we trigger this inner cosmic alphabet, which is our innate understanding of symbolism, which is why symbolism has been inverted so that we don't remember, but we can access actual symbolism, because once we know actual symbolism, like your theatre metaphor, the scenery falls away and you see what's behind everything. So that's what the awakened individuals can do. So that's what they mean by much is presented. It's a convergence, meaning there's multiple meanings to Return of the Mermaid on all these different dimensional perspectives. So they can't give everything. So what they said was, the main presentations we can give you without overstepping free will and denying epiphanies. Now this is really important. What they've said to me before is free will isn't just about standing within boundaries. It's epiphanies are our realizations when we learn something. When we learn something new, a concept, and we marry up one concept with another and see the connections, inside we'll feel like, oh wow,
yeah,
that's what it is. And that creates a chemical reaction in the body, opens the heart, activates DNA. So there is a physiological reaction to an epiphany. If they deny the epiphany by telling us everything, we'll just be, oh, okay, thanks. It's not the same as discovering it. We are explorers and we must go out and live the quest. We must take the vision quest, the pilgrimage. We must do that. Everything the nine give is a guidance, and they'll come as close as they can to the point of free will where they don't overstep my ability to hold epiphany. So that's what they mean. We can give you without overstepping free will and denying epiphany. So when they say that, I know they're coming very close. And they say, are the understanding of the waters at molecular level, the living within the waters, the Piscean and Aquarian frequencies, and the activation of the fifth dimensional Merkaba. Now, I'm not sure what they mean by Piscean and Aquarian frequencies, and I think, that's maybe you would know that more than me, but obviously Piscean, fish, Aquarian, underwater, waters at the molecular level. So I had to kind of research molecular to find out exactly what that means. And that's obviously going right in further than the atom to actually see what the structure is made of. And I think that's what we're saying, the plasma, the memory, but potentially there's more within a scientific concept there. The living within the waters, so that's the life. The activation of the fifth dimensional Merkaba. Now that's another meaning of mermaid. So you've got mermaid, mer, M-E-R, Merkaba, M-E-R. So when you're looking at the sound mer, This ancient language, mermaid, Merkaba, is the same thing. We
the
are
mer in French. Yeah, the sea.
mer, or mer. I mean, whether I'm pronouncing it right, but it's a sound. It is an ancient of the ancient tongue, and that means the Merkaba, the activation of the Merkaba. But it's not just an individualized Merkaba. We're creating our own individualized Merkaba, which is the external geometry of the plasma and the photonic light and the activation of the DNA. But as we do that cohesively, when we structure that Merkaba cohesively with the next person and the next person, we create what they're calling the grand cosmic Merkaba, which is the Merkaba created by aware humanity simultaneously.
Fabulous.
And that's so powerful that no inversion can stand against it. No technology, no matter how advanced. This is another thing, going slightly off topic. I have asked the Nine before to tell me, to show me what technology the other, the other polarity, let's say, have. And they've said to me that I'm not ready to know all of it, because if there were certain things, if they were to show me certain things that they have, I would then believe that we stood no chance, because I would think, how could we possibly stand a chance against that? And they said to me that would be a false assumption. So they want to make sure that I'm ready to not have that false assumption, even though I say, I'm ready, just show me. I promise I won't have the false assumption. They clearly know within me that perhaps there is something that would. We all have natural preservation and fear. And if we're seeing Goliath and we're only David, yeah, we might think, well, I'm only little David, how am I going to deal with Goliath? And they're saying to me, when you move as one, all of you in cohesive movement, creating the grand cosmic Merkaba, this creates planets, realities, geometries, the pineal gland working. It's not just about creating our own individual reality. You create a planetary and a galactic reality. There is no technology, no matter what they do, there is no technology that's any match for that. What they can do is create a little sort of timeline or structure within the overall, which is the bifurcation. So you have New Earth over here, and you have their bit over there, and that can hold some sustenance, sustaining for a while. But once this New Earth structure rises to this return of the mermaid, return of the fifth dimensional Merkaba, the unification, and moving beyond 5D into higher dimensional structure, into that singularity, that cannot hold. That darker structure cannot hold. Goliath cannot stand against David when that occurs. So that's what they are showing me by Return of the Mermaid.
And that's, I mean, it's absolutely fabulous, Magenta. And that's why, you and I constantly say, do not go into fear, because you're quantum entangling with absolutely what you don't want. You stay in love, you're on the highest timeline. You're adding momentum, energy, focus, attention to the best possible timeline and bringing other people with you. It's gathering momentum like an energetic hologram, like a wave in every moment. The more of us do that, and we get there faster, we get to New Earth faster. So it's so wonderful to hear that that's coming through from the Nine as well. And just a little bit about the astrology. Pisces, Saturn is moving into Pisces on the 8th of March for the next 3 years, and Pisces is about the oceans. It's ruled by Neptune, Lord of the Sea. That's the whole symbolism. So we are going to be focused on Saturn in Pisces for 3 years, a huge amount to do with the seas, the oceans, the depth of the oceans, and really a kind of a mastery of all that the oceans have to give us, because I think there is so much more to the oceans, both energetically in terms of healing, but also spiritually, that we have yet to discover. And that's really what the channeling has been saying. I think we've got L plates on with oceans right now. There's so much.
That's pretty much it. We have L plates on and we're learning, and it's the ocean within. And regarding fear, going into fear, I completely agree with everything you say. But there is another side to that. And sometimes when people hear that, don't go into fear, they then go into fear because they've been in fear and they're worried about being in fear and they don't know how to stop going into fear. So they're frightened of going into fear. For those individuals, I would say it's okay when we say don't go into fear, it doesn't mean you can't feel fear a little bit for some things, or for you to see what's going on and feel fear. That's normal. The issue here is not to stay in fear. It's
Bring
to
yourself back.
Exactly. Look at the fear and think, okay, why is it here? Let's work out why it's here, and let's move through integration of that fear. So that's and just an add-on, because I know a lot of people say that to me. You say not to be in fear, Magenta, but I am in fear. So am I failing? Am I not going to ascend? And then I have to say, no. It's normal to have fear. It's okay to have fear, but it's integrating it, understanding that it's a message, working through it. So just adding that in there. But you're absolutely right. There's so much to learn, and the nine say the water's within. Water being the fluid conductor of all. Once the charge is brought back in the seas and in, as you say, structured water, pure water, and within us, that's the physical matter version of the antimatter life, and it's everywhere. So
and I believe
it's not just water. It's almost as though water is the wrong word for it. It's almost as though this is source in a fluid form.
Yeah, it's living. It's liquid living consciousness. And there's something about the electrical charge within ourselves. I believe that the stronger the electrical charge you have, the healthier you are. Yes, I believe.
That's absolutely true.
And I'm just sort of aware of time. We're sort of coming up to about an hour. Do you feel you'd like to move on to just talking about the equinox now, Magenta? How do you feel? Do you have more to say about the water before we do that? I'm just aware of your time and everything.
I mean, I did obviously ask quite a lot, but I didn't think we'd get to all of it. Only that they've mentioned Neptune. You mentioned Neptune a couple of times. They've mentioned Neptune again. They mentioned children of Neptune, which is another flame letter metaphor. And the children of Neptune are predominantly the children born of the sign of Pisces and Aquarius, but they added within the 13th house astrological map. So we are talking about, and I think I've spoken to you before, of almost as though the 12th house, and then there's another point to it, whether it's
I think it's in the middle.
I think it's in the middle too, because they say, I asked them about the 13th sign, and they said it is. I said, is it pronounced a fucus? I said, is it a fucus? And they said,
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus, is that it? Okay. They said, Ophiuchus indeed, yet so too. Wormwood, Planet X, Nibiru, the Red Destroyer, and many more names known by, as is the convergence that is the 13th sign, the true 13th sign, meaning it could be any of these planets. Yes, that fits. But the true 13th sign is that of the 13th crystal skull and the 13th tribe of Israel. Well, I already know through my talks with them that the 13th crystal skull is us in ascended form within that crystalline structure. The 13th tribe of Israel is the central point of an infinity structure. So yes, it's in the middle.
Okay, how fascinating.
It's the core, because it isn't absolutely. A sign. It's the actual core of the structure.
It's like the 0 point, the center of the toroidal wheel.
That's it.
Oh, that is so, because I didn't know that. That is so fascinating.
That's it. And so anyway, let me just go to what they didn't bring through very much yet about the equinox. What did they say? You are on the precipice, or I actually asked them about this and brought this forward as a post on my social media. We are on the precipice of another turning point. We entered a new world on the 21st of March 2020. They told me on the 21st of March 2020, this is day one. I'm like, wow, this is day one of a new world. Well, we know what happened with the world around that time. 3-year cycle into the 21st of March 2023, we enter into yet another new world. So it's like the new world from 2020 is still going, but a new one's been born within that one. So we've got a new cycle starting within that cycle. It's almost as though in the past, we've gone through all these multiple cycles and we're coming to the culmination point, going, if you will, that way. And it's now we're coming out this way. We're making cycles of awareness out the other side, creating this cone, using geometry to explain what we are doing as a humanity in our awareness and as a planet. So we stand within the very last moments of this 3-year cycle that's just before the equinox, and peel off yet another layer of the old world, setting a bifurcated trajectory, so that's forward, into 2 distinct realities that will coexist for the next phase. So in the next phase, and I mean the last one was 3 years, is the next one another 3 years?